Hi, I'm Mark, and today I want to talk about some arrests and protests during the coronation of King Charles III. Anti-monarchy protests erupted in London ahead of King Charles' coronation already, and members of the anti-monarchist group Republic also took to the streets. And people in several British cities have demonstrated against the coronation. In London, hundreds of people gathered not far from the procession route and protested, chanting, "Down with the crown." Members of the Republic organization waved flags that read, "Not my king." In the morning, the police arrested Republic leader Graham Smith and some other activists already. Opponents of the monarchy also took to the streets in the Welsh capital Cardiff. In the Scottish city of Glasgow, a demonstration by pro-independence supporters with thousands of participants also criticized the royals, and protests were also called for in the capital in Edinburgh. During protests against the coronation of King Charles III, according to activists, 6 people have been arrested. Among them, as I said, was the head of the Republic organization Graham Smith. Activist Luke Whiting told this to the British news agency PA on Saturday. Photos and videos posted by the Alliance of European Republican Movements on Twitter showed police officers checking some people's documents. The demonstrators wanted to protest against the monarchy along the procession route with yellow flags with that inscription I mentioned before, with "Not my king." On the day of the coronation of King Charles III, the police in London arrested a total of 52 people. The reason was crimes such as bodily harm, violations of public order, breach of the peace, and conspiracy to cause a public nuisance. All of these individuals remain in custody, said the Metropolitan Police on Saturday. There was criticism of the arrest of several monarchy opponents from the Republic group. "We fully understand the public's concerns following the arrests we made this morning," said Chief of Operations Karen Findlay of the police, though. "Protests are lawful and should be disruptive, but the police must intervene if the demonstrations become criminal and can cause serious disruption," Findlay said. "It depends on the context. The coronation is an event of a generation, and that is an important aspect of their assessment," they say. Home Secretary Suella Braverman thanked the police for their efforts. "It was a magnificent procession and ceremony enjoyed by tens of thousands of people across London," she said. "It was a great homage to our country and our monarchy." The government recently tightened the right to demonstrate again. For example, police officers can ban protests if they expect them to disrupt public order. A total of around 11,500 officers were deployed in the British capital. The cost of the security measures is estimated at £150 million. The British government has recently tightened the right to demonstrate, as I said, and for example, police officers can already stop rallies if they fear that they will be too noisy. Somebody had trouble because of a megaphone. People around the world were looking back thanks to the coronation of King Charles III, impressed on London and the UK. The gleaming carriages and uniforms, the splendid costumes. And of course, all the glitz and the gold of royalty, the jeweled crowns and the diamond swords. Penny Mordaunt, by the way, had the very central job. Sunak was in a very weird mood, I must say. After decades of relentless decline in power and influence, Britain will once again be the envy of the world. That was said by controversial TV presenter Piers Morgan, and he sold this to The Sun. And Prime Minister Sunak struck a similar note. No other country could offer such a dazzling spectacle. The processions, the pomp, the ceremonies and street festivals. No, the other monarchies here in Europe decided against this and to end this. Well, but the Conservative politician should also be happy that the coronation easily overshadowed the resounding electoral defeat of his Conservatives in the local elections on Thursday. The kingdom celebrated the monarch already, and they will do overall for 3 days with a one-off holiday today on Monday. But behind the facade and the TV program, it's clear The pictures show only a part of the British emotional state, because more and more are different. For example, at a dinner in London's financial district, guests rise to toast the king. And as soon as everyone is seated again, a lawyer said, "I don't care about the coronation at all, but thanks for the holiday, Charlie." Well, so to speak, the royals as folklore now. In the grey everyday life of many people in the country, there's little room for traditions that let the eyes of the world rest on the country, but which do not improve their lives. As I said earlier today, millions suffer from rising energy and food prices, and it doesn't make sense to many that at a time like this, £250 million is being invested in an anachronistic ceremony. In a survey conducted by the YouGov Polling Institute, more than half said the government should not pay for this pompous spectacle. Almost a third of YouGov voted in favor of a referendum. Doesn't sound like much, but it's almost 10% more, 10 percentage points more than in the early days or in the days of Charles' mother, Queen Elizabeth. And the king should be warned that young people are increasingly critical of the monarchy. 78% of the 18 to 24-year-olds have, according to the survey, no interest in the royals. Will the king become known as Charles the Last, as the activist group led by donkeys suggested in a clip? Many criticized the fact that during the service the population should be called upon to take a public oath of allegiance as evidence of the aloofness of the royal family. The call was changed to an invitation for a short time. But we must not forget Charles was well received, as was evident when he was in the crowds on the eve of the coronation. And the king seems close to the people, laughs a lot, and takes his time. He doesn't need to introduce himself anyway. He had plenty of time to prepare, 50 years or so. And once derided as a quirky environmental fanatic, Charles has long asserted himself with his favorite topics of nature, sustainability, and diversity. And most of them forgave him for his long affair with his current wife Camilla during his marriage to the popular Princess Diana. In surveys, however, Charles regularly lands in the middle. First up is his daughter-in-law Princess Kate and son and heir to the throne Prince William. And some experts believe that Charles will only be a transitional king, also because of his age, and then make way for William. But abdications are exceedingly rare, and shortly after taking office, Charles vowed to follow his mother's example in lifelong service. There are still many family construction sites for the king, though. His younger son, Prince Harry, traveled to the coronation from the USA, but the circumstances of the Blitz visit also show how difficult it will be to resolve the conflict, especially with brother William. Harry has also announced that he still has enough material for more books after his sensational biography. If he underlines his allegations against the family, this should also affect the reputation of Charles and Camilla. It is a difficult balancing act for the king. On the one hand, he wants to reconcile and build bridges between Harry and his wife, Duchess Meghan, and the family. On the other hand, he cannot allow the attacks on Camilla. In response, he threw Harry out of Frogmore Cottage at Windsor Castle, which the prince used on visits to his home. And representatives of the 56 countries of the Commonwealth also marched in the coronation procession. Charles always emphasizes how much he cares about this confederation of former colonies, especially since he's not only King of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, but also head of state of 14 other countries. But as I talked about in earlier videos, the question is for how much longer? Because the mood is changing in many places. In a recent survey, a majority in 6 countries voted in favor of abolishing the monarchy. There were also heavyweights in Canada and Australia, or the 2 heavyweights, Canada and Australia, and demands are growing louder, especially in the Caribbean, for the royals to apologize for their involvement in the historic slave trade. Charles found empathetic words, but he refuses a pardon because the government won't allow him. I think you've seen the video I made on that as well. And coming back to Canada for a second, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada is firmly standing behind the monarchy. But I looked at the surveys again that paints a little different picture than what Trudeau says. And some Canadians, hi Cthulhu, in the comments under my videos are having a different opinion as well. So Canada is not as firm behind monarchy as Justin Trudeau makes it sound at the moment. And I talked about Australia in another video already. They are indeed talking about a referendum to come to decide on monarchy or republic. And the same with New Zealand. It will not be tomorrow, but there are more places where this will happen, that at least the people get a fresh decision. And we will see how that ends. But I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.